My most recent book is one that I wrote together with Katarzyna de Lazari-Radek, who's a Polish philosopher, and it's called The Point of View of the Universe. The subtitle is Sidgwick and Contemporary Ethics. The phrase, the point of view of the universe, comes from the work of Henry Sidgwick, who I think is one of the greatest moral philosophers, and his book, The Methods of Ethics, is perhaps one of the best classical works of moral philosophy. Sidgwick was a utilitarian, and he defended objectivism in ethics, that is the idea that moral judgments can be objectively true or false, and he argued for the view that we ought to take the point of view of the universe, and from that perspective, our own well-being is no more significant than the similar well-being of anyone else. And for that reason, we ought to judge what is right and wrong ultimately by the consequences for the happiness or well-being of all sentient beings. So this is a view that I have a lot of agreement with, and the idea of the book was to look at what Sidgwick says on these topics and to see to what extent it was defensible. And so the book ends up defending Sidgwick's views on most major issues, and therefore can be seen as a modern restatement and defense of both objectivism in ethics and of hedonistic utilitarianism. And I was very pleased that the first review of it was published by Bart Schultz, suggested that he thought that this was perhaps the best defense of utilitarianism to appear in recent times. So I hope that people who are interested in utilitarianism, whether they're for or against it, will take a look at the book and either see why it's right or argue against it and find objections to what we're arguing in the book. So people do sometimes ask me whether I've changed my views about philosophical questions over the years. And the recent book shows that I have changed my views in two important ways. One is that I am now clearly an objectivist about ethics. That is, I agree with Sidgwick that ethical judgments can be true or false. And earlier in my career, I would not have said that. Secondly, for most of my career, I've defended preference utilitarianism, the view that we ought to maximize the satisfaction of people's preferences, which in some respects is parallel to the classical utilitarian view that we ought to maximize happiness and minimize suffering. But obviously it's not quite identical because people have preferences other than to be happy or not to suffer. So in looking at Sidgwick and looking at his arguments and also looking at some of the objections to preference utilitarianism, I have now shifted on that. I think that the classical or hedonistic view of utilitarianism probably has better arguments going for it than the version of preference utilitarianism that I defended previously.